We're back for another one, folks. Fight Show Live, presented by Pull No Punches Apparel and 717 Surplus. As always, my guest, former referee, professional fighter, Bill Bookwalter, live on Facebook. And tonight we got a special guest. Special for me, anyways. I've been a OG fan since way back in the day, but he's 21-12. Got fight credentials going back to 2001. He's fought for Legacy, Strikeforce, Bellator, and he's even done a bare knuckle fight. Been in the game since '01, like I said, ladies and gentlemen. Texas OG MMA legend, and now a judge, giving back to the sport in that way, which he'll talk about. But Nick Gonzalez, everybody. The Ghost, electrician, proud Navy dad. Thank your daughter for her service. We appreciate you.
Thank
Texas
you.
MMA OG.
Yeah.
Max the Great in the back, of course, sleeping. We see him back here.
Yeah. He's a little tired from the move.
Yeah, man, just real quick, people that aren't familiar with you, whatever, just go ahead and, let them know. Hey, man, this is my story. This is what I've been doing.
Yeah, I mean, I jumped in the game 2001, like you mentioned. And again, it was like, I think I got to go back and look. It's like the third or fourth event ever we had in Texas. It was called Renegades Extreme Fighting. The rule set back then was pancrase. So we were doing the open hand strikes, kicks and knees to the face. No, these were 4-man tournaments. So if you won the tournament, you got $1,000, right? I think we were only getting like 200 a show, right? So 2-2, and then if you won, you got 1,000, right? So I don't think it was till my third tournament I won the whole tournament. So I was like 1-1, 2-2, and then I finally went on like just this long streak, and I just really started taking note to my style and just really transitioning to being a good MMA fighter. But again, remember how early on it was. I was saying earlier, like we always kind of knew what groups or who was who. It was like the jiu-jitsu guys, the kickboxing guys, and there was really no in betweens because MMA was still really green. I fought Eve Edwards on Elite XC on a very short notice. Eve was one of the teams in Houston, and I had beat some of his students. But Eve's also trained under Saul Solis. So there was like Houston's always kind of had like this fucking thing, man. Like if there's anything to ever complain about in Texas, it's like the gayness in Houston. Like Houston's always got each other's back. They've always been very strong supporting MMA. That's why now we have from Saul, Renegades, then it was Mick, Legacy, now it's Fury. Houston's just the birthplace of MMA in Texas. But yeah, so I said I was fighting, doing tournaments. And then in between, some of the slow times, I ended up doing like pro boxing. I was started really good in pro boxing. I was 3-0, and then did MMA again. I think I had like 1 or 2 fights. It was kind of slow still. Then I did World Combat League. I was on the Texas team for that, the Chuck Norris thing. Did an MMA fight, another boxing fight, and then I think somewhere around 2006, I went to Japan and fought in K1. Came back right around that time is when I really kind of started blowing up, and my name was kind of getting a little more spread out. I got the opportunity to fight Josh Thompson in Strikeforce, and again, this is the time like when I fought Josh and Eves, where they were like number 1, number 2. I mean, depending on who you asked, or around that time, 2006, 7, or 7, 8, whatever it was. But this is also when the UFC did away with the lightweight division for a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's been around, just kind of hanging out, fighting, and then I mean, it's a lot to talk about. But then 2009, I fought in Bellator. Then I got 2010, got the opportunity to be a sparring partner for Dominic Cruz when he was fighting Brian Bowles for the world title in WEC. They brought me out for that. I did that camp, and I ended up just staying there. I did 5 of his camps. I get paid me a little bit of money after the fights. I always got paid. So I developed a real good relationship with those guys. And
well, yeah, so you started training out of Alliance, did you kind of stay up there?
Well, I tried. So I was there for about a year. And then I ended up coming back. So the thing with me is I had kids, you mentioned my daughter in the Navy early, So I had kids really young. So it was real hard to be away from my children. I mean, they live with their mother, I'd send them money or whatever, but it's just, I only give myself a year to get this UFC contract. When I came to San Diego, it didn't work out, so I came back. And then, I continued to fight, but I will go out to San Diego, try to get some sponsor money and go out and train for a couple of weeks, whatever. But, that went on for a while. But from somewhere around 2000,
another sacrifice people don't see, man. It's the sacrifice of You had perfect example for the bigger stage for everybody to kind of understand it when they were doing the fights at Yaz Island in COVID. Dan Hooker had to be away from his family for something like, with a little toddler age like daughter, and you got to be away from your family. People don't just don't understand what it could. The casuals, I should say, don't understand.
Correct.
There's
I
people that
mean,
understand, but
that's very true. And even at that level, I guess too, right? Because there was a show here in Austin. I was commentating. I ended up commentating. I didn't work that one as a referee or judge, but the promoter had me commentate because I've done that as well. This is like kind of a funny little story, but I get a message from my Instagram and I look, and it's a picture of like my back, and I'm like, okay, who the fuck's behind me? This is a girl I used to date. Anyways, she's texting or she sent me a picture, and I was like, oh, cool, you're here? She's like, yeah, my son trains with that team. They're fighting tonight. I'm like, and then she sends me a picture of her son. He's in the cage after like one of their teammates won, and I was like, that's cool. I mean, he's fighting or he wants to fight. He's only, I think, like 16, 15. He's a young man. And she's like, yeah, he wants to be a fighter, he's going to do what you did. And I'm like, I mean, I really wish him the best, but he's like at this like gym in the suburbs. It's kind of like, it's like a fitness MMA place. And yeah, they got some fighters, and this is a very, very low level of amateur fighting that they're at. And they're celebrating it like, and this is something I learned a long time ago. I remember I was training around Guy Mezger for a while. We went to Louisiana for some amateur fights. Like, that's their UFC. You know what I mean? Like that level, like those guys or that guy and girl that fought that night from this girl's team or whatever. Like, that's all they'll probably ever do. I mean, that's not bad. They get out there, they accomplish a goal, but like you're saying, for them to understand the sacrifice it takes to get to that level, and then when you're there to stay on top, people don't get that at all.
yeah, and then you gotta take it on a level by level basis, because we talked about it the other week. You got these guys that are the biggest fish in their pond. You can either stay swimming around that pond for a little bit and kind of develop yourself and do something, or you either take that jump too early, or you have bad advice, and you get that next level up, and you realize, okay, this isn't for me. Like, I'm okay down here, but the next level up is just it's too much commitment. It's too much, and that's where you see people start to fall off.
Yeah.
Well, Nick, I'll jump in here for a second. I remember I was a decent regional fighter. I was okay, but I didn't have my first pro fight until I was 31 years old. I wanted to I was on a time crunch. I wanted to see where I was at. I went down to Philadelphia to Dadas Fight Club, and I trained with a Bellator contender that fought Ben Askren for the title. They called him Psycho. His name was, Carl Amasu. They called him Psycho. I wanted to see where I was at. I knew he trained down there. I was a big, bulky, muscular, 185 grappling kind of guy. I did 2 rounds with this guy, and I knew I didn't have it. I mean, these next level fighters, like I said, you fought on that next level. I was 2-2 as a pro on the local scene. Yeah. I dipped out before I could even get to your level. So, man, that's pretty impressive that you fought in Bellator like that.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, I had a good run, man. I always look back at it, and and again, the early days of how long ago it was, like I didn't really understand a training camp, a team until 2009, when the first time I went to San Diego from Alliance. I got signed to this management company. They put me in Bellator, and I lost. I was actually slated, because if you look at Bellator 1, I'm on the poster, right? Me, Eddie Alvarez, and Masvidal. I was slated to pick. I should have won. Like, I was on like this like probably, I think, 12 fight win streak. I had a long win streak, 9 or 10, something like that. Crazy. And yeah, but it didn't pan out. And then I go out, so the manager's like, hey, you should come out to San Diego and train with the team out there. We got 2 gyms, blah, blah. So I end up out there up until that time, 2009. So it's from 2001 to 2009. I didn't really know, like, training camp, sprints, conditioning on this day, and whatever. Like, I would fucking run 4 miles, 3 miles. I'd go to the boxing gym. We had some guys there at this MMA kickboxing. We had a few guys that would fought, but my trainer, he was kind of a half-ass trainer. He was more of like his gym was more like a fitness kind of place, but he liked the fighting, so he wanted to. But he wanted to train fighters, but he also was a struggling businessman. Like, sometimes I remember it was like 3 times. Not even fucking kidding. We'd go to the gym, it's like closed, and they're like, he didn't pay the bills and shit like that. And then we had to go somewhere else, or so God bless his heart. I mean, he meant well. He just, he wasn't. He just. I didn't know fucking what to do other than, like, I should run. I needed to spar, and I needed to wrestle and grapple. Not wrestle, but wrestle. That's how we do in Texas. you know. And I had kind of developed a style more to be known as a striker, so I got the nickname the Ghost. And I had a wrestling background just from high school, nothing like collegiate, but I always had really good takedown defense. And then again, early on in those days, you were either fighting like a jiu-jitsu guy or a kickboxer. There was really no MMA guys. Where now, like as a referee and judge, you see some of these fucking kids, man. They're like they've been training for 8 years, you know. So they start training when they're 12.
Yeah, they're true
mixed
martial artists.
Correct.
Yeah, they're mixed martial artists. It's not.
Yeah.
And that's the transition. We talked about that again the other week too. How like you're an athlete. If you can make it to the regional scene in America, and I'm going by America. If you can make it to the regional scene in this country, and you are depending on what regional scene and how much exposure they have, but if you're somewhat of a name in MMA communities, you're not a fighter anymore. You're an athlete who is performing at an optimum level. And you're a mixed martial artist, but you're not, they used to introduce guys as freestyle fighters. Well, everybody was a freestyle fighter. You're a boxer who picked up a few submissions, or you're a submission guy who took some basic boxing or kickboxing. Like that's, to me, is a freestyle fighter. Everybody now is a freestyle fighter. It just depends on what level of freestyle fighting you're performing at.
Right.
Well, I fought in the day. I was just a big, bulky, muscular. If I could get you on the ground and get on top, things are going pretty well. If you could make me stand with you, not so much. But I fought in a day where you could have one skill set and be pretty successful. You know what I mean? These people watching these days, man, they have everything, dude. There's very few people who are inadequate. Now, granted, like a Khabib kind of type, you know, of course he wants to grapple. That's in his nature. But it's not like if you make the guy stand up, he's going to be lost, you know? I came from a day where you could get by with one skill set. These days, I don't even know if I would want to fight.
No, I mean, as you're saying, I've refereed and worked shows, and you see these young kids, you're like, God damn, fucking kids, man, they're good. You know, they do it all. They're really, but then it's like there's no specialty because MMA is their specialty, right? And they can pull off. Like I did remember I did an amateur show, a regional show here in Texas. And this fucking heavyweight guy pulled off a Von Flue choke, which is like, I hadn't seen that as like a heavyweight do it. Number one, I was like pretty high level, pretty tricky for heavyweight. And also maybe you could say, oh, it's just the guy was whatever. But the fact that he even did it, I've not ever seen a heavyweight do a fucking Von Flue choke. I was like, oh shit, he's tapping. Oh, hey, stop. You know, I was kind of standing there watching it, and I was watching him transition. But even just in the little guys, man, just watching them, you know, transitioning, attacking, getting positioned and attacks. So now you see now more. It's like, again, you'd have back in the day, like we were talking about, your guy would get on top and he would hold you down and beat you up and you win the round that way, right? But I've seen guys get taken down and off of their back, they're attacking submissions, right? So as a judge, that's offensive attacks, right? So you got to count that. Like, he just put this guy in a triangle for most of the round. Like, that's a pretty dominant position. This guy on the bottom won the round. So that's the part where now you got to get more knowledgeable judges, and you know what I'm saying. So if that makes sense, right? Because like if we're on the ground, this is the training they told us, right? Like if I throw a hard right hand and I hit you and it kind of wobbles you, but that's all that ever happened in the round, then I did the most to win in that round. So you got to think of that right hand as like, if I throw up a triangle or armbar and I have it and I almost have you submission and you're like panicking, flipping, you survive, or I just have you in this bad, triangle and you got to get out, and the round ends, like that's offensive for me. I win that round, right? That's where now we need to get.
And that's part of the reason I'm kind of glad you're on here. We had the Mike Bell thing the other week with the 10-8 round. And as anybody who watched this saw, even Sean Shelby, the matchmaker, was like, what the fuck? And that made a huge difference in a title fight. That made a huge difference in the difference of a new champion versus, Shevchenko coming back. So having you on here, what I personally liked when I saw the headline.
Was it the last? Okay, because I remember, what round did she knock Valentina down?
I remember.
I believe that was wasn't it round two?
Two.
It was early. It was early on, right? Like 2 or 3, right? Okay.
Round 2, yeah.
Now,
but the round that he gave, and that's not even the round that he gave a 10-8 round.
It was the last round, right? The 5th?
Yeah, and that's why I said when I saw the headline of Chris Lieben coming to be an MMA judge, and I see you down there in Texas still being involved in the sport, you clearly have a passion and a love for. You've been involved in it for 23 years. Like it, as an MMA fan and as somebody who's worked in many facets of the industry, like I said, just a toe dip compared to what you guys have done in the shallow end. But been around the industry or familiar with the industry and consider myself more than a casual or even a knowledgeable fan, it's important for me to see guys like you, guys like Chris Lieben, giving back to the sport and being a judge, because we need educated judges. We need, Bill, do you feel like you would have been as good of a referee if you didn't have the fight experience?
Of course not. No. Of course not. I mean, of course you get the better feel for it. I will openly admit to you, I do not think that I'm a good judge at all. I've been at fights before. I've seen it. I'm good friends with Brand Coldflesh, is a friend of ours.
Yeah.
And he is a UFC caliber judge, and he's much better. Judging is very, very difficult. Obviously we can all a clear round that's real easy to score. We can all get that. But it's like Nick was saying, what do you do? I've seen rounds in recent events where a guy seems pretty dominant with the striking for 4 minutes, and then he gets leveled with the right hand, ends up on the bottom, and there's some ground and pound done, but it's like, man, you were doing your thing for 40 seconds to a minute versus losing 4 minutes of a round. How do you score that? I don't know. You know what I mean? That's tough.
Like, that's always where they talk to. That's a gray area, I guess, in a way. It's like, because each judge, each their own, Like, I always say it that way because everybody's different. Everybody's gonna look for something different. I try to be like as neutral as I can when I score. Like I try to earplug it and not listen to the crowd, because there was a Muay Thai show I did last year in Houston. Like, the guy's always like a family and shit, this little Filipino kid, a bunch of people behind me, and they read the scores like Judge so-and-so, Judge, and I'm the only fucking Mexican dude. They're like, Judge Gonzalez scores it, blah, 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 for the other guy. And they're like, boo, boo, you fucking suck. I was like, oh, fuck, yeah. But there was a part, I remember there was a part in that fight, though, and this is where I was talking about the scoring. I'm looking at it. He grabbed the guy in the clinch, and he grabs the clinch. It's full Muay Thai rules. We got full Muay Thai rules here in Austin, Texas now. I'm sorry. He clinches, he throws one knee, and they go nuts. And then the first one was good. And then like 2, 3, 4, 5 were like taps that didn't even land because the guy's moving back, but it looks like he's hitting him, but he's not. He's throwing them, but they're not landing. And then the guy pulls away and goes 1 elbow, 2 right hand. So in that exchange, that one knee was good, but then the elbow right hand was better, right? But
yeah,
the 4 or 5 knees that the guy threw that didn't land looked good, but they didn't land. But then his people were like, fuck! Dude, there were so many fucking people for that kid. It was really cool. Because he has like a hometown boy, right?
Uh-huh.
And again, but I'm sitting there watching, and I'm being fair. I'm like, okay, the knees didn't land. The one did. The other 3 or 4 didn't land. Elbow, right hand, more damage, right? That's how I'm reading it. Because they tell you damage, duration, domination are 3 Ds you want to look at, But again, it's like, I did a show, the one I just did recently, the Muay Thai show, same thing. Something similar happened. There was I don't even know who it was, a new judge. I had never met her, but she was like, she scored it. We scored it right, but she wanted the other guy. It was a split decision, and she scored it for the other guy. And I was like, what were you looking at? Like, just because the crowd's yelling doesn't mean you're winning points. And that's kind of said that to her, and she kind of like motherfucker, because I think that's like legit though, because people can get distracted with that, like the crowd
people
yelling
that haven't been in a cage and in some of these positions for 23 years,
right?
Or X amount of pro fights, like Bill don't understand.
Correct.
And I'm going to be an MMA judge because I'm doing
I mean, she's trying, and she's supposed to be from like a strictly Muay Thai background. She's telling me a little bit about herself. Like, all right, cool. But again, it's like, did you fight? Like, real
quick, something I want to get into, just something locally up here for us. It's kind of a cool experience. Told the dude I'd share it out, but Eric Purcell, Bill, Eric Purcell, Philly fighter, matter of fact, Nick, Pat Sabatini is fighting currently in the UFC. It's his coach. He's got a gym going out towards Philly. Great opportunity, guys. Eric Purcell, NPR Gym. All the info's on the flyer there. October 28th, a striking seminar with Henry Hooft and special guest Eddie Alvarez, who Nick just mentioned, who that leads me into my next point. But yeah, all the information's here. October 28th, noon to 3. Sorry, deadline to sign up to 26th. message Eric Purcell on Instagram. MPR, he's easy to find on Facebook, and we're going to have a clip for him. He can go ahead and share this with the masses. But that's that. So we just wanted to share that little bit of local housekeeping stuff real quick. But I think it's an amazing opportunity to sit there and pay $100 and pick, and it's a limited size, and that's not often the case with guys like this at that stature coming in to do.
Yeah.
So $100 locally if you're in the area. Again, I'll throw it up here real quick. $100 if you're in the area, out by Philly, Langhorne, Pennsylvania. $100 to pick Henry Hooft and Eddie Alvarez's brain, limited to 40 people. So great smaller class, small opportunity for people in the area.
So. All right, so I got a question for Nick then. Coming back
Go right
to
ahead.
only because I have no judging experience. I've refereed LFA, I've refereed a bunch of CFFCs, UFCs, Bellators, World Series of Fighting, PFL. Too many to keep track. I've never really judged. I'm not saying it is or isn't the best style. I'm just saying I have never been a fan of the 10-point must 3 rounds. I was very much a fan of the old Pride rules where you fought a 10-minute first round. And then if there was no submission or finish, you fought a second round. And then a judge like Nick, you just tell me who you thought won the fight as a whole. Do you like the 10-point must and 3-round system, or do you think it could be done better?
I personally, I do. I think if you're judging it correctly on what they're, telling you to look for, the damage, the 3Ds, damage, duration, domination, right? That's the 3 keys you want to go off of, right? So, I think it works.
Okay.
I personally remember Pride, and I don't even remember how that. I remember the 10-minute round. Like, Jesus Christ, Pride was a wild thing, though, man.
The first
round
one
was 10 minutes, right? Yeah.
The second was 5, and at the end, if there was no finish, you just tell me who you thought won the fight.
Yeah. I didn't know they did that. Really?
So if somebody
Okay.
really stalled out the first 8 minutes, 9 minutes of the fight in a dominant position, but then a guy came on real hard in the last 6 minutes of the fight, you could just tell me, hey, that guy won the fight, and that's your card. There's stuff up. You just tell me.
The caveat to that, though, I think, how many slow starters how many of your favorite fighters that fight at the top level are slow starters? How many of your favorite fighters that fight at the top level do you know you're not going to see anything from in the first 3 rounds of a 5-round fight?
So the sport would adapt. You got 15 minutes. You better get in there and get rid of that slow start mentality. The sport would adapt. You know you don't have an 8-9 minute feeling out process. Get in there and fight. That's what the and like I said, I'm not saying the 3-round. I've even thought of maybe even, especially at the UFC, occasionally you'll see just those 2 judges that saw everything a little different than us. What if you had 5 judges? If you lose a unanimous decision 3-2 with 5 judges sitting cage, you lost. Three people saw something that 2 didn't. You know what I mean? It's real easy for two judges to see it incorrectly from what the decision should have been. And we see some crazy split decisions at times. What would you think about a 5-judge system or a system where we just say, you know what, tell me who won the fight, as opposed to these weird, 3-round 10-8, because I know the UFC is putting they're asking the guys to use the 10-8 a little bit more liberally than they have in the past. And
they're pushing that more. I remember one of the last trainings I did with the ABC, because the ABC is the Association Boxing Commission. So they obviously do all the training. You probably did that too as well. They're teaching more of what could be a 10-8, what should be and what shouldn't be, right? I remember one of the first years they were really pushing it last year, actually, the Muay Thai fight I did with a guy named Jim Erickson, who was a guy they brought in from Missouri or somewhere in the Midwest. He was like a gaming, like he was doing like Indian reservation stuff, but it would, and I love Jim. He's a real cool dude. Every right before he gives you your check, he like has a little debriefing. Well, he has a beginning briefing and at the end, like who did what, or this is how it went, and he read my score. Nick scored at 10-8, and why'd you score 10-8? I was like, that guy was about to fucking get. The referee saved him at the end of the round. Ding, ding, ding. But he's already losing the round. He gets hit. He gets dropped. He's pounding. He's trying to survive. At that point, the referee's in doing this, like, oh shit. And then ding, the round ends. Or, maybe I'm a little quicker than that. But what I'm saying is, like, it was no fight in him at that round. You know what I mean? Like, it was very clearly one guy beat the snot out of the other guy, almost stopped him. So that's where you kind of start giving the 10-8s. So like the UFC fight, when I heard the score at the end, I was like, hmm. And then they're showing the clip, and I'm watching it. I'm like, the only thing, I mean, she had Valentina's back, and she was like hitting her ground and pounding, right? And she had her back at that last series in the 5th.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah, because she had lost the first 3 minutes and 30 seconds of that 5th round.
right.
You know, the other female, she only shined in that last 90 seconds, but she did so much damage. You know, I think that with a fan like myself, like I said, I don't have judging experience, but Valentina controlled the first 3 minutes, 30 seconds of the round. When you turn the round back in your favor, that's 10-10. When you drop her and get some good shots, now that gets you the 10-9. The 10-8, you know, obviously a lot of people had issues with it. If nothing else happened in the round, and that's how the last 90 seconds went, I could see the 10-8. But the fact the other girl did do a good job of controlling the round, that kind of made it 50-50. And then when you dropped her and took her back, okay, that wins you the round by a point. That's what I was thinking. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think that's what a
to
lot of other people
me,
were thinking
with
too.
no judging experience, just being a fan, just being around the sport for over a decade, if you go in there and you dominate, and I'm not saying ragdoll, but positionally dominate your opponent, significant strikes are, you know, there was a few exchanges and it was kind of like nobody got the better of anybody, then there's no real need for a 10-8 round from a fan. Like, but then you have the instance of the other day, and again, me with no experience, Vanessa Demopoulos. She's an LFA vet, fought on the undercard of the Bobby Green card the other day. For the last probably 3 minutes of the round, she was in guard on the bottom, had the girl in her guard, and I don't remember the Asian fighter's name, but she was an Asian fighter, and she just kept dropping double hammer fists. That's all she was doing was double hammer fists.
Yeah,
And Vanessa would stop it, grab, okay, that got, excuse me, there was a judge that 10-8 round that. And I think she 10 in favor of Vanessa. Meanwhile, she spent the majority of the round on the bottom, receiving, but she kept evading. She kept changing the position. She kept defensively. She was doing work. They didn't stand him up. So then you have a 10-8 round,
well,
which
I think
caused her to win the fight.
I think if as fans we want consistency. You know, if the ABC and these other commissions, you know, if they're training properly and it's consistent, I think, like I said, I think the fans will adapt to it, but it has to be consistent. You know what I mean?
But the difference there, I think, where you see it, I wouldn't even say it's consistent in boxing, but like, let's say there's a WBC world title fight, right? Canelo's fighting, right?
Mm-hmm.
They have WBC assigned or qualified coaches. So judges. I'm sorry. So like, it might be that, let's say the fights in California. California might have their regular commission there doing all the fights. Main event comes on, so now the 3 WBC judges come in and take over the main event because they're WBC qualified or they've done so many title fights or whatever. The problem with that in MMA is there's not enough. There's too many minds. Like you've seen The Last Samurai, too many minds. Like there's so many shows, right? And there's so many little shows, and there's so many. I mean, there's not very many big shows. But so as the UFC is traveling, from what I'm understanding, is they don't bring any judges. They bring 2 referees, which are the ones we usually see all the time, and then the commission supplies 2. That would be something I think.
That's how it goes. Well, the UFC, right. When I was assigned here in Pennsylvania, the UFC has their 2 main judges that is probably going to give them the main event and the co-main event, and that's going to be judges off the UFC's list, and then the UFC, because they're smart. They do know they know that younger referees need to be groomed along the way, because the guys that are refereeing main events and co-main events are now, whether it be 5, 10, 12, 15 years, they're not going to be around anymore. And you have to have people. You can't just bring somebody in for their first show and be like, all right, you're refereeing a UFC world title fight tonight. You had to have been worked out the jitters the first, you know. I refereed UFC Pittsburgh back in, I think 2017 it was. Nobody would even remember I was on the broadcast. I was nervous as shit. That was my first show. And you know what? I refereed Kelly Fastholz versus Lauren Murphy. And I let it go like it was a guy's fight. I probably let it go a couple strikes too long. But the UFC made a little note about me, handed it to Greg, and they say, hey, talk it over with your guy. He let this one go a little bit too long, And I could have. It's all objective. It wasn't anything crazy. I don't think if it was two guys, anybody would have complained a single thing. But it was
Right.
two girls, and there was a lot of blood. And I was treating them like they were professional athletes in the Ultimate Fighting Championship. I wasn't treating them like these are girls. I
Well,
better.
that's the way it should be. You did it right to me. You did it right. I think. No, I
It
mean,
looked.
but they're professional. You just said they're professional athletes. You're in a fighting sport, whether you're a guy or girl. You're a professional athlete in a fighting sport.
What made it tough for me is it was 1 round apiece. Fast holes, 1 round Murphy. Okay. And Murphy definitely did start getting the better of her. I stopped the fight at 4 minutes and 50 seconds of the 3rd round. Okay. Murphy did start getting the better of her. And when it was done, I was trying to give fast holes. She wasn't laying there lifeless, but she was taking some shots and stuff. You know what? She had fought that hard. I was trying to give her to the end of the belt. She ended up with a broken orbital. The UFC was not happy with me. They let the commission know. I got talked to about it and stuff. And Greg and I discussed it about how I could get better and stuff. And I did end up refereeing more UFCs after that. So they didn't blacklist me for it. But the progression and the, like you said, the allowing of 2 or 3 local referees to do the show, the UFC knows that's necessary. So that, they want to pick from the cream of the crop. They want to pick from the good guys and all that. So, the UFC gives them a list of their approved referees. And then as long as nobody's messed anything up too bad before, they will let the UFC use 2 or 3 of their own referees for the prelims, like maybe some early fights on the prelim card. But then, the bigger refs, the household names, they get the main card. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's just the rule. I mean, like in Texas, we got Jake Montalvo and Kerry Hatley, and they work for like Bellator, UFC. I think Jake goes to one, or one of them does. I think, but so they're on the roster with Bellator and UFC regularly. So when they come to Texas, UFC comes to Texas, it's like you already know you're not going to get the assignment. Like I'm saying me, like whatever.
Yeah.
Judging, I mean, I think personally, I hate saying like I'm overqualified in that way. It was like there's no commission person that has the experience I do. Does it matter?
Yeah.
You would think it does, but again, it's just the way they play the game's played. So I'm just here, I'm like, if they need me, I'm here. Do I feel I'm a better qualified judge because of my experience and being around the business so long? Absolutely, But I'm also new to this side of it, So in their eyes, I need to do more. I'm like,
Much
well,
like you did for the last 20-something years in our sport, you put your reps in, and I'm sure Nick Gonzalez will become a household name with a fucking zebra shirt or sitting next to the table. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But you mentioned Bellator.
I throw any bone they give me. I said they just gave me an amateur show, the LFA. Well, not the amateur show, but the amateur side. So their spells like, oh well, fuck, I only get the amateur side. Whatever. We got this guy. Where's he from? I don't even El Paso area. Really experienced. He's like new to the area, I think. But I was talking to him. He did a lot of like King of the Cage stuff because he's making out in El Paso. So he did a lot of like Indian reservation stuff, before he got in the ABC thing. So, I mean, he's a very experienced referee too. So, we're getting more in Texas is what I'm saying, he just came on this side.
You mentioned Bellator. Showtime announced this week. We'd be remiss if we didn't cover this in the news this week, but Showtime announced they're getting away from boxing and MMA after I think they've been covering boxing for 37 years. So that is yet another nail in the coffin for Bellator as we know it. They got one event scheduled, and that's 301. That's the last scheduled Bellator card as of right now. And there goes their broadcast deal as far as any pay-per-view model or anything with Showtime. So Showtime's, like I said, been doing boxing longer than I've been alive. So
I'd be surprised if Bellator is around by the end of 2024.
You think so?
I don't think they make a lot of money. It's hard to investors, if they're going to stick 10 million into something, they want like a $30 million return, and they're not trying to wait. Now the UFC was sold for what, 4.6 billion. There was a long-term plan that, hey, we can recoup this money after listen, I love all forms of mixed martial arts. I love all the promotions, small local ones, all that. I think the more MMA is better. You know, whether it's Bellator, PFL, I don't want to see anybody shut down. I don't really foresee, you know, Dana White takes jabs at him when he's doing his press conferences, and he's like, yeah, everybody go ahead, invest in Bellator. If I had $10 million to invest in mixed martial arts, it wouldn't be going to Bellator. I'll tell you that
But
right
even
now. You know what I mean?
even with the UFC at 30 years old, and this is like, you know, I had my promoter hat on for a few shows in New York. Even you ask Robert Haydack, you know, Mick Maynard, Ed Soares, any of these guys that are notable and we'll just say have Fight Pass deals now, because if you have a Fight Pass deal, if you're a regional promoter, you're right here. It's not only getting that call to send people up because it's brand recognition for you, but it's that Fight Pass deal because it's exposure. But you ask any of these guys how long they had to grind. You have to be willing to go into debt, and that's why when WSOF and Nick, for you, WSOF is kind of local to our area. We're like 90 minutes north of DC, and all the WSOF backers when they switched over to WSOF before it came PFL, like that was Washington DC, like for Virginia money, guys with fucking multiple commas at their net worth. Like these are the guys that were investing in WSOF when it came out. So it was almost a breath of fresh air. Oh, you got money? If you got money, you can. If you have money and you have a stream of money, you can build a promotion. It's the UFC was what, 11 million in debt after they bought basically a cage, a couple events, and a logo.
2 million, yeah. Well, that's the thing with the shot that Dana White was taking at Bellator. It's like they need new money. Who's going to invest in that? You know what I mean? They don't have a TV deal anymore.
Isn't their money Viacom? Aren't they financially backed by Viacom?
Well, yeah, Viacom wants nothing to do with them. Viacom, CBS. Matter of fact, hold on a minute, because
I've been out of it. See, this how long? Okay, you remember when I fought Bellator in 2009? It's a long time ago, right? And
it's a different Bellator than the Bellator you fought in. It's definitely a different, because there was a time where it almost felt like they were knocking at the door.
Well, that's
as far as popularity wise.
When I say
this is MMAfighting.com. Go ahead, Bill. I'm just looking for the spot in this article.
When I said Bellator new money come in, and everybody knows that Viacom is like freaking huge, but the fact that they're selling them is telling. If they were doing anything for Viacom, or Viacom saw a future with Bellator, I don't think they would. It would definitely wouldn't be for sale. If there's no new money coming in, if there's nobody willing to invest in Bellator, because it sounds like Viacom is done with it. You know, it sounds like that's why you sell something. You sell something when you're done with it, when you don't think you can make any more money off it.
So Showtime's owned by Viacom.
Okay.
Showtime's owned by Viacom, which is owned by CBS, which Paramount owns everything, and they're switching everything to streaming. You know?
Okay.
Basically, Steven Espinosa, who we know Uncle Dana's so fond of, he's the one that co-promoted the McGregor-Mayweather fight. Steven S., the Weasley little fuck. The company's decision is not a reflection of the work we have done in recent years, nor of our long and proud history. Unfortunately, in rapidly evolving media marketplace, the company has made it difficult choosing choices, allocating resources, resetting priorities, and reshaping its content offering, which is the exact opposite of what ESPN is doing with UFC, and that's part of the reason they're probably still having some of the success. You have to have somebody backing you. When they first did the PFL and it was something new and it was something golden, you had all this money backing you, but they're giving out free tickets to fill arenas.
Well, that's
like
what I mean.
Fake, on the fake it till you make it. So
it doesn't sound like Viacom wants to put money into Bellator. You know what I mean? I can't see them.
I think it goes above Viacom. It's above Viacom. Okay. It's the owner of the owner of the owner. They're not, if you're getting, it's for what it's worth, I'm not a huge boxing fan, but Showtime Boxing, for like I said, for 37 years they've been in the boxing business. But boxing money's different than MMA money. We all from the bottom, the lowest level to the highest level, but it's a different game. But still, they've been involved in it for 37 years, and their parent company is not. He just said they're not allocating resources. We can't put a production on.
And here's what it comes to, and you know, over the years, and nobody learned. Showtime Boxing and the boxing brand, they built a fighter. The fighter was the sale. Dana White did such a good job. He built the brand. The UFC is the three keys letters. It's just like the WWE or WWF. Wrestlers will come and go. Stars will come and go. You'll create your own new stars. The UFC brand is what you want. in boxing, the WBO isn't the brand, the WBC isn't the brand, the whatever organization of the 7 of them that have world championship title holders are out there, they're not the brand. They made the excuse me.
Oh, we lost him. We might have to get him back.
Uh-oh.
Oh, wait, there he is. He's back. Hey, Bill, can't hear you. No mic. Oh, hold on. Still muted. Try now. Maybe. You might have to pop out. Hold on. Check. 1, 2.
Hello?
He probably has to pop out. He'll pop back out, pop back in. We had this issue the other week. But he brings me to a good point. I'll wait for him to pop back in here in a minute. But boxing itself, and let me ask you this. Being from Texas, born and bred your whole life, and being involved in the sport of MMA, how deep of a root is boxing in your region where you live? It's pretty deeply rooted, especially
Way
Mexican
bigger.
boxing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like way bigger, bro. Like, it's huge. Yeah, you gotta remember, like, during the pandemic, right? There was I think Texas and Florida were the only 2 states open doing shows, right? They did a Canelo fight during the pandemic, and that motherfucker still did. It was not even a full arena, and it still, killed it in the box office. I'm sorry, the pay-per-view, I'm sorry, the gate, whatever it was limited to, because of the distance, social distance, or whatever. The arena was American Airlines arena, but it was like half of what the full capacity is, and they sold it out. I mean, boxing's huge here, man. It's very big, yeah, because a lot of Mexican people here, and there's a lot of good boxers in Texas. But they bring big shows. Like I just read, I guess maybe it wasn't Showtime or maybe it's DAZN. They're bringing Ryan Garcia and some other kid to Houston in February 2024.
Yeah, I just saw the ad for that on DAZN, and while we're talking about DAZN and stuff, so you being from an area in the country that has a diehard boxing following, the roots, especially like I said, Mexican boxing runs deep down there. What'd you think about this whole influencer boxing, misfits? Because I watched the show, and I actually watched something with Darren Till on MMA Hour, and he was talking about it because he was there, and the production value for that misfit show was comparable to any UFC
they
big
put some
name
money
show.
into it.
Callie Sauerland, if you saw the guy that was standing there, the David Beckham-ish looking guy, he is in Europe. Him and his brother are apparently huge promoters, and they're the brains behind this thing. And, DAZN is always looking for content. I think, again, the production itself was, from watching it and people that were there, people that I've spoken with or listened to, they said the production value was through the roof. Like, it was what you would expect from that big of a show. Now, fighters clearly didn't perform because they're not on that level, but do you see the social influencer boxing being, if social media kind of stays in its own lane and runs parallel with traditional boxing, do you see it hurting or helping the sport?
Which, by the way, while he's thinking, it's going to. YouTube's influencer boxing is here to stay.
Yeah, no, I was just like, I can't really. I was like, I'm not gonna say it hurts it. I'm not gonna say it helps it because it's its own thing, I think in a personal way, I can say it hurts it because I know guys that have been amateurs that do the pro circuit. They're grinding their way through, and they can't even get half a paycheck that some of these motherfuckers get that are influencers, right? Bro, like, okay. Okay. So I was out in San Diego. I was a part of Alliance. So Jeremy Stevens fought in Dallas. He fought on that Diaz-Paul undercard. I went to the show, and again, production, I was like, what the fuck? I mean, this even getting there, dude, it almost reminded me of a UFC fight in Vegas. Like, just if you've been to one, it's just the experience. You can just tell there's a lot of money. There's a lot of. It's a different feel, right, than just your regular, boxing show, right? So I pull in, there's like Diaz's bus, Fighter Inc. And I'm just like, what? And it was really cool experience. Yeah, the production, the money, you're just like, wow. But that motherfucker was packed, bro. It was packed to the gills, right? So there was actually some pretty legit fights before the main event. I mean, Stevens and Avila technically are MMA guys, but Amanda Serrano fought, and she's a world champion. And then there was another girl that MVP promotion had signed, this black chick. She's like a 165er. She's like undefeated as well. She's like 13-0. So there was a pretty decent fight. So it's like, I think something like that, obviously it brings money to the commission. It brings fans together. That girl, who's 13-0, she's the female black girl, 165. She's not a Clarissa Shields, so she doesn't have that kind of name attached. Now they're already talking about her and Clarissa fighting because now she's got the clout. Now she's got the notoriety. Now she's getting the pay-per-view. Clarissa Shields ain't bringing in shit. I hate to be the dick, but like Clarissa could be she could be the best fighter in the world, but like nobody's fucking watching her, right? Now you put her on this MVP promotions undercard to the co-main event, and Paul's the main event against somebody else. A lot of people are going to watch that, and now a lot of people are going to see Clarissa Shields that maybe didn't see her before, and this other girl. Does that make sense? So it's not
at the end of the day, if you're a fucking electrician or you're a factory worker or your daddy's got $6 million in your trust fund, if you put the work in and you train and you build your brand and whatever you want to do it. My thing is, and everybody talks shit on Jake Paul. Here's what honest opinion. Jake Paul, and I'm not saying this about Logan, Jake Paul can crack. He's taking it seriously. The clout chasing and the name dropping and some of that stuff, there's levels to this shit, and it's like, whatever, but it's kind of like, okay, you do what you do to sell a fight. And at the end of the day, a lot of these guys who might not take them seriously are going to do that just to get a payday. Much like when I watched Nate Diaz fight. Nate Diaz, I'm an old school MMA fan. Oh, okay, if anybody's going to be able to knock Jake Paul out, it should be Nate Diaz. But when you go in there with the attitude of, I don't care if I win, because at the end of the day, you already know, hey, all I got to do, I run triathlons. All I got to do is be in shape, pass the commission, show up, put the gloves on, and just put... when you have that attitude that all I got to do is show up to get paid, it kind of takes part of it out of it for me.
Yeah. But honestly, at the end of the day, if I'm looking at it the way I saw it, I was like, Diaz ain't going to knock him out, man. He's too big. Paul's way too big. He's a big boy, you know? Yeah. And Diaz is naturally a smaller fighter. He didn't really knock a lot of guys out at welterweight. He knocked him out. He knocked out some guys at lightweight, but it was also never like a one-hitter quitter, like he hit somebody and they folded, He accumulation, and he didn't have that, the 5-minute rounds, obviously, or 3-minute rounds. Different sport, bigger gloves, and again, Jake Paul was just so much fucking bigger than him,
And as I say, knocking it. Realistically speaking, Nate Diaz wasn't knocking Jake Paul out, but the MMA fan, the MMA fans across the country were like, please knock this motherfucker.
Yeah, no doubt, man. We want to see somebody do it, either one of those guys. But but then like what I'm saying, like, is that bad for the sport? No, I don't think it is, because now, I didn't poke around and ask questions about what Jeremy Stevens got paid, but I'm pretty sure it was a nice chunk of change. And then going back and talking about that super middleweight female who they're throwing the name around to fight Clarissa Shields. I'm pretty sure she got that MVP Promotions paid her more than she would have got in a regional show in Minnesota or Nebraska, or wherever she's from. You know what I mean? So good for her. Because that's what I'm saying. Like, it hurts it. For me as a fighter, I remember getting $1,000 for winning a 4-man tournament, fighting 2 times in one night, and now you got these kids making good money, I'm like, you can't be mad at them for that, man. That's what we all wanted. That's why I got into this sport. I didn't get into it because I wanted to, I wanted to be world champion. I wanted to fight, but I wanted to make a living. I wanted to, buy myself a house, and that was the dream, right? Like, how do I do that? Well, I got to win these fights, I got to make money fighting. So to see that,
sorry, go ahead.
No, I would just say, just see that YouTube promotional circus bring that money in for these kids. I want a piece of that shit.
Well, I'll tell you what, this influencer boxing stuff, whether you like it, whether you don't, man, it's here to stay.
Yeah.
Some of these guys, I'll tell you what, there's a 14-year-old out there right now who has no idea who Alexander Usyk is. He has no idea who Tyson Fury is. He has no idea who Francis Ngannou is. He knows who KSI is. You know, when KSI has a boxing fight, that kid knows. KSI's what? I don't even know what that guy has. 4, 5, 6 million followers. That guy is a dude. That guy. I'm not saying he can't fight. He comes in shape and he tries his best. But I know many regional people here that would be stuck fighting for $700 on a regional show that would whoop KSI's ass. But they don't have the 4 million followers that KSI has. So this YouTube and celebrity influencer beef stuff, whether you like it or you don't, some of it's entertaining. This shit's here to stay. You're going to see some real substandard combat sports in the next 5 to 10 years.
It even transitions into real combat sports. And I say this on the Texas scene because I'm a local boy here. Like, I've seen people who can sell a lot of tickets at a promotion get favored on their decisions, on their opponents.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Get built up, right? Like, there's a guy. Well, I don't want to go and drop a name because I'll probably see these guys at shows, and I mean they know I'm not the one to fuck with because I mean I might be about but I got a big mouth, but I mean also I remember I was a fighter. I wasn't just this referee. Just one day woke up I'm a referee. Like, but there was regions in South Texas and San Antonio and like Corpus Christi area that built up fighters because they had local draws, they could sell tickets, and they beat guys, they fought guys, but it was like a 60-40 match, right? It's a 60-40.
They were nurtured.
Correct.
Their matchups were nurtured.
They're built up. But boxing's been doing it forever, but it just looks different, right? It's a different format, right? Because when you're an Olympian and you're coming off of this, Olympic team, you're 1-0. You're gonna fight a guy who's like probably 2-1 or 1-1. They're gonna get you like kind of an even match, right? Like in MMA, it's not. We don't have that, right? You have a regional guy fight because I saw this for this one kid in San Antonio. He fought. I forgot the guy's name. He's from Lubbock. He fought in the UFC. Joseph Sandoval. But he had not fought. He was like retired for like 4 years. He had a kid. He was just like working and shit. And they got him to fight this kid in San Antonio because he's like a former UFC fighter. So it looks good on his record. He beat him, right? But this is also 4 years out of the UFC. He's not active. You're active. Like, you're supposed to win that fight.
You have the soundbite of, I defeated a UFC veteran.
Exactly.
Because I experienced that. So a little bit of my history, my amateur career got derailed from injuries, canceled cards. And when I was injured, I found the management promoting side and we operated in a space in New York where New York State was just getting ready to legalize. You had guys up there that if you had access to a warehouse and you had access to a cage, you could put on a fight series. And there was guys that were doing it. There was guys, 4 or 5 of them together that would just train in the garage, very, very old school and unorganized. And even in a landscape where we didn't have to use a third-party commission, we chose to use a third-party commission because it just made our brand look better. And then working with the commission that we work with, and then you go to the next largest promotion in our area, and you got them patting the fuck out of guys' records. You got that, what I talked about earlier, the big fish in the small pond, and you're not doing anything to help these guys. And to the point where you're, you can sell 300 tickets in a 1,500 seat arena. And then I know this guy over here can sell 300 tickets, but he's only an amateur. Let me dip this guy off a G real quick to come sell some tickets. We'll make it back on concessions and seats and gate. And then he sets these guys up for failure. And then when this guy gets outside of that pond, he gets his ass whipped and continues to get his ass whipped because his record's been so heavily padded and his fights have been picked for him. You're not doing yourself any favors.
No doubt, man. I saw this also too firsthand when I lived in San Diego for about a year. I fought on Saboba Casino, Indian reservation, right? We drive out there, make weight. The next day, I'm like, who am I fighting? Don't worry about it. Show up the next day, they're like, that's your opponent. I'm like, man, there's no way that motherfucker weighed the same as me yesterday. So I was like, whatever. I ended up knocking this guy out, TKOing. He was an opponent, right? He was like 0-9. Like, I was supposed to knock him out, right? So, but this is like the King of the Cage Gladiator Challenge shows. So there was a guy in that San Diego area. His name was Sean Loeffler, right? I don't know if you guys are familiar with him.
Yeah, I
Okay.
know Sean. Actually, a friend of our mutual friend of ours ran a promotion out here. I was doing a veterans initiative, and he linked me up with Sean. Sean's been around for a minute too.
Well, they said Sean, why he was again killing everybody out in the scene, was never fought in the UFC because he would make more because of the tickets he would sell in that area than he would an entry level UFC fighter, right? So he's killing it. He's selling fucking thousands of dollars worth of tickets. Got all these people coming from the Southern California area to support him, like, and he's fighting some B-level guys. He's wrecking them. He's like, well, what are you doing with the recognition? You want the money, and then he want obviously with the money, right? So it's like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
fuck, man.
that's definitely a money move. If you have if you really want to do it the UFC way and make millions, yeah, you got to beat the tougher guys.
Yeah.
Now, what you're saying is right. He was there for the cash. He might not have had a vision to go to the UFC one day. You know what I mean? He probably just wanted to hear it now, the paycheck.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and if you're doing that, you're and I'm laughing because like the fight card that I fought on, he was the main event. I don't know what his opponent pulled out or whatever. This is the funny shit that you see on the Indian reservations, and I didn't believe it until I saw it. They legitimately found the dude in the crowd to fight him, right? I swear to God. That's the Indian reservation, man. Some crazy shit happens. And the guy like signed the contract to fight him. He got paid like $500, I think, or something, 300 or whatever. And then he was like, "Okay, I'll fight you. Here's the deal: don't kick me in the leg." He had just gotten shot in the leg like a month, 3 weeks before. So I'm fucking dead serious, right? So the guy like just no leg kicks, because I just got fucking shot a few weeks ago. He's like, all right. So Sean kicks him in the head, knocks him out. But like that wild shit. They literally got this kid out of the crowd, and I was like, no way. They're like, yeah, dude, look. And they started, I was like,
Bill, you had a
oh my
story
God.
about that. Virginia.
Dude,
Kind of loosely regulated, a little bit Wild West down there.
Loosely regulated. That wasn't even the word, bro.
Yeah.
No, my buddy Sean Dolphinbaugh was one of my teammates at Blackman MMA, and he went down. First time there was this guy named Josh Dugan from the Hive MMA down in it was Matt Douglas's he owned Barbarian Fight Club at the time. Sean was literally there and just to watch the rest of us fight. And Matt walked up to him out of the crowd and he said, "Hey, do you want to fight tonight?" Just a pair of shorts. And Sean was like, "Sure." He went to it, and Matt plucked him. Yeah, the old school Barbarian Fight Clubs. Like I said, it was really, really loosely regulated. It's like he's saying with there were some guys there that could move tickets. And if I'm a promoter, I'm going to get you the biggest meatball. This is back in 2008. This isn't what it is today. But if you could sell me 300 tickets, I would get you the biggest meatball you could to submit them or choke them out or knock them out in front of your friends and family. Because you know what? If you sell me 300-400 tickets, I give you the guy that you knock out, and I put you on my next fight card, you're going to have 300 or 400 people that want to come back and feel that with you again.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, the guys were plucking people out of the crowd. Like, it was fucking wild, man. I know exactly what he's talking about.
Yeah, that was funny experience.
Fun fact about Nick, Bill, he did, I think it was like 2018, you did a bare knuckle fight.
Yeah.
How did you like that, coming from an MMA background?
I didn't like the start right in front of the person. I didn't like that. I didn't ever train for that either.
Yeah.
So that was a little different. I didn't really like that too much. I didn't. So the show that I fought for, we didn't get paid. I don't know if you knew about that. That was a show that nobody got paid.
How's that?
Was that the one Boss Rutan was involved in too? Okay. Yeah. A couple other guys. I've heard stories about that.
I just want to ask you, Nick, how does that even happen? The commission doesn't the commission step in front of all that and require the money from the promoter up front?
Well, the bond for the Wyoming commission was only $10,000, right? So there was no money. It basically covered the judges and the referees and timekeepers. It covered their ass, right? But they only required $10,000 bond. So it's funny, guys. I just saw Boss. That story I was saying about that girl that messaged me about her son being at the amateur show. That was like this fitness expo thing. It was like in July here in Austin, right? And Boss Rutan was there for some I don't know what brand, supplements or whatever. He was there for that. So I went out and talked to him. Of course, I hadn't seen him since we fought in 2018, and he called everybody on the personal on your personal phone numbers and was staying in touch with everybody. He felt terrible about it. And then to find out when I was talking to him again about it, I hadn't seen him since 2018. I'm like, hey, remember me? He's like, oh, hey, man, hey. We're talking. He brought in Jimmy Lennon Jr., the announcer, and Burt Watson, who used to work for the UFC.
Mhm.
He paid them out of his pocket because their checks bounced too, or the promoter wrote them a check, and it was like a fraudulent check. So what happened was the guy had a lot of money, apparently millions of dollars. He went to the boss, about this whole thing, and then was also sabotaged. There was this other guy who was working for BKFC that basically sabotaged the show. Paul Davis, or I gotta go look at his name. I'll go find him online. Paul Davis, or oh man. But he, like boss was saying, like they were commentating, and then like they went live, but they couldn't hear themselves, and then they found out like somebody had unplugged one of the cords at the event, so they were like trying to commentate for him to fight, and then Paul, oh my God, Paul Thomas. But apparently was working for the other promotion, BKFC, and it was sabotaging the event. But then also that's the guy who snitched on the guy. I don't know. But apparently his assets were frozen when they were doing this federal investigation. So that's why the money was not. It was there, but we couldn't. The checks didn't cash.
Huh.
Yeah, it was a big mess.
Speaking of bare knuckle, again, news this week: Mike Perry and Eddie Alvarez coming up again, December 2nd. Mike Perry versus Eddie Alvarez, BKFC, Salt Lake City.
That's going to be
and
a good one.
Apparently Darren Till's, with his freedom from the UFC right now, Darren Till's trying to line something up with Perry at the beginning of next year. So we might actually see Darren Till versus Mike Perry.
Mike's gonna fuck everybody up, bro. That guy. That sport was made for, dude. I like Eddie, but Eddie's way too small. First of all, Perry's a big boy. He's a big boy. Didn't he fight at 185?
I saw Eddie Alvarez on an interview the other day. Eddie Alvarez looks, and I've seen Eddie Alvarez in person and stood next to him. Eddie Alvarez looks bigger than I've ever seen him.
Yeah,
so,
but that's not. But
Eddie Alvarez is the underground king. I'm not counting Eddie Alvarez out of nothing, but I understand exactly what you're saying.
No, your boys from Northeast like that, man. No, I love Eddie. I said he was cool when I met him. I've been around a couple times. Great guy, but I'm just like, man, Mike Perry's like designed for this sport. It's like he's the dog. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think Eddie is going to be a banger, but I mean, I'm looking at size. Like Mike's naturally the bigger guy. I think that's the whole thing on weight classes for a reason. But again, it's not boxing. It's not MMA. It's bare knuckle. I went to Puerto Rico for my on holiday, my 41st birthday. It was a year ago. I think my old buddy Joey Beltran was a UFC. Was a BKFC heavyweight champion at that time. And he got, I don't know why he ended up in Puerto Rico. He was there for a while, but there was a guy, Elvin Brito. He was the bare knuckle, I think, 165 champion. And when I was out there in Puerto Rico for my birthday, just hanging out on vacation, I got in touch with Joey. He's like, hey, man, where's that gym? I want to go train with these guys. Check it out. I want to spar that world champion for my birthday. He's like, all right, cool. It's fucking tricky, man. Like, the bare knuckle fighters are really good at it because it's not MMA. It's not boxing. It's its own thing. And they're really good at it, man. Like, I remember when I clinched him, I'm thinking, okay, I'll be strong in the clinch. I have a wrestling background, blah, blah. Like, we got clinched, but man, like, before I could even start punching, he already hit like these just like stupid little fucking shots where he was turning his hand over. So like, he wasn't hitting me like this. He was hitting my, like, that makes sense? Like, he was,
yeah,
right,
like a reverse hammer fist.
Right, exactly. We had gloves on, we were sparring with gloves, but and then just how quick he, that's a technique that they do in bare knuckle, right? He's like, I'm going to hit you with the top part of my knuckle because it'll probably cut you quicker than it would if my fit. I was like, oh, that makes sense. But yeah, it was a great experience sparring that kid, Elvin. They're very hospitable at the gym. Man, it's its own sport, man. I think if I was younger, I probably would do it more. But I just like after that whole thing where we didn't get paid, I just lost a bad taste in my mouth. And that's when I went to the state. And I'm like, hey, you know what? I want to be hurt. I was so heartbroken. We didn't get paid, bro. He's like, go do a bare knuckle fight for free. I could have picked a fight downtown Austin and did that,
An old teammate of mine from back in 2008, a guy named Dustin the Disciple Peg. He was mixed martial arts down there in Virginia for a while. Opened up Disciple, or was down there with Disciple MMA and all that. He was never much of a wrestler, but man, cardio for days, heart for days, striking for days. Somehow he got involved in mixed martial arts, and I thought he fought in the UFC. He went 1-4. I thought he would have done better in pro boxing, but I want to say he's 3-0 in bare knuckle fighting right now. Might be 2-0. I don't think he's lost yet, but like you said, Dustin's built for that shit, and he's probably like 36 or 37 years old. And the whole spot, dude, I like bare knuckle boxing. I really, really do. There's times where, I like the UFC, I like mixed martial arts, I like the jiu-jitsu, the submissions and stuff, but there's something to be said, man. I like the bare knuckle aspect, two guys getting in there and just like standing toe to toe and throwing down, man.
Yeah. No, it's his own baby. It's his own baby. It's got his own fan base, and it's starting to really get some money in it because now they're getting like the Eddie Alvarez, the Mike Perrys, the Chad Mendez. Who can you remember? Was it Trigon Combat? They fought in like the triangle thing, and it was like team MMA versus team boxing. Well, they did 2 shows in Texas, right? Okay. I think they did 2 shows in Texas. So apparently those guys had a lot of money, right? Because again, I work for the commission. I kind of hear things sometimes. I'm like, okay. So they invested in BKFC. Their money went into BKFC. So now they're trying to get Texas into BKFC. And the last I heard is that they're considering it. They didn't say, yeah, we want it or no. They just said considering it. And it's just because again, we're going back to what I just said. Like during the pandemic, Texas was one of the only states open, right? I mean, they're the fight state, man. We got boxing, we got World Championship boxing. Obviously the UFC comes here. Bellator ain't been here forever, but I think even World Series of Fighting, they did a show. They did San Antonio about 2 months ago, I think.
Yeah. PFL was just down there for a tournament.
PFL. Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
I'll tell you what. The president of bare knuckle fighting, David Feldman, he was a promoter in Pennsylvania back from when MMA first kicked off. He used to run XFE, which was down at Harris Casino and stuff like that. He threw a lot of shows. He had been working at this for 15 freaking years to get this bare knuckle thing off the ground. It was a lot like the UFC. A lot of states didn't really know what they were looking at. He was trying to shop it around. It was not available here in Pennsylvania due to our medical board and some of the other people that didn't want it passed. David Feldman's been working at that for 15 freaking years, man. I'm glad to see it. I really enjoy it, man. I'm glad he stuck with it.
It's just something different for a combat sports fan to tune into. It's definitely, if striking, if you're a jiu-jitsu guy and you're a straight jiu-jitsu guy, you're not good. But if you're an MMA fan who, likes to stand up battles, it's definitely, I could see it taking a portion of a strictly MMA fan base and kind of getting them into boxing a little bit to where, but it's like Nick said, it's its own animal entirely. And the amount of growth it's had, I'm excited to see David Feldman's. I've never really heard anything in this sport. You kind of sans,
I think they
perfect example. Nick Maynard. You worked with Nick Maynard personally when you fought for Legacy, right?
Yeah,
I've never heard. I've never heard anything negative. Like Nick's just one of those guys that has a stellar reputation. David, I mean, I'm sure bits and pieces and there's stuff here and there, and there's always going to be disagreements business wise, but overall, everybody I've talked to, which a few people down that way, Nick, they always said Nick was, they like going to work a Legacy show.
I've known a lot of promoters. I've been, around for a long time. Nick has got to be probably one of the most solid humans I've ever met in promoting. There's a lot of fucking.
Which is surprising. It's hard to get to that level and be
dude,
straight.
He's I love him, man. I love him to death. He's a real good dude. And I know about the whole story. So before Legacy, it was called Lone Star Beatdown, and they had like a publishing company, and they were just trying to advertise and trying to promote it. And then they're like, "Hey, wait a minute, we like jiu-jitsu." I think at that time maybe he was maybe a purple belt. He's been a black belt for a while, but he was still fairly new in the jiu-jitsu world. And it was kind of a weird time in Texas. Like I said, Saul had not done promoting for a while, and we had like XFC. I fought for them. We had some, shows come and go. There was another one I had fought for it in Austin. And same thing though, man. You get the wrong people involved in the sport, it fucking takes it down the wrong road, and it leaves a bad taste in a lot of people's mouth. Like Mick is one of those dudes. Like, he genuinely loves the sport. He's a martial artist. He's just a good human, man. He's a good dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
He's a
no,
father. He's a good
and
person.
back to my journey when I was laid up and I started finding other avenues just to be involved in the sport. As a promoter, like, anything you do, you see somebody that's more successful and you align yourself with their goals and what they do and how they promote and how they're a stand-up person, and you can succeed in that. And Mick is one of the one, like Dana White, when you're getting into promoting or you're getting into that type aspect of it, you're always striving to be the best there. And I mean, Mick's track record speaks for itself. Like, did what he did with Legacy and earned the spot that he's got right now. And I'm stoked for the guy. But watching interviews with him, watching the come up, being able to watch that stuff again through Access TV, my access to my only access to Texas MMA was the internet and basically Access TV. And just to see that and set that as, hey, this is a good guy to model yourself after. Like, this is the way he handles himself. Like, just hearing his stories and hearing him talk on the come up was for me inspirational. So, I don't clearly know him on the rate you do. We're friends. We conversate on Facebook. I've conversated with him less since he's been to the UFC because clearly he's got a lot more on his plate right now. But shout out to Mick Maynard, one of the stand-up dudes in our business.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like Mick. He's a good dude. There's been a handful of people I've met that I actually could say I genuinely like. Just in recent times in Austin, we had it's one of these like fucking just rat snake piece of shit motherfuckers come through, and I've seen these guys all through my career as well. Like, they get into it thinking that they're gonna make this money, that they're gonna be this big time promoter, and money, very selfish minded in a different way. They're not from the sport, they're not fighters, but they pretend. This guy bamboozled this couple, and they're basically in a lawsuit with him now, from what I understand. He has a good mouthpiece, man. He's a good mouthpiece. He's a con man. But so Austin has a open market. Our part with it, Austin, nobody does shows here because it's a real hard market. Austin is not a fight town, right? It's a weird city in Texas, man. Like, Texas is like, when people think of Texas, they don't immediately think of Austin. They think of like Houston, Dallas, like West Texas. Like, Austin's its own weird little animal, but that's why I always pride myself as being this baddest motherfucker to ever come from this city, because we're not known for having fighters. We're not a fight town, But anyways, so this guy basically bamboozled this couple who was in the bodybuilding world. They were getting into promoting because they're getting this open market, and then they seen there's some possibility for success to do shows. I don't know what the lawsuit's about. I don't know the details of it, but I know they're basically. They did like 3 shows and sank real quick, and it's partially because of him, running the business. Like, I mean, one of the last fights, they pulled out their big guns too soon, if that makes sense, right? So when you're promoting, if you come out, you're trying to like stream pay-per-view and fly these people in, and you got this one ring girl, you know what I'm saying? You got this one ring girl, you're paying like fucking $500, $1,000, whatever, because she's got 40,000 followers on her OnlyFans. Like, those people that are looking at her butt are not MMA fans. Just because she has 40,000 followers on Instagram doesn't mean they're going to watch her fight. That doesn't transition, They brought Mark Coleman in, who was, former UFC champion. It was like, man, everybody feels bad for Mark, but it's like, dude, the XFC brought Mark Coleman in 2006. Like, this guy's, nobody knows this generation doesn't know who he is, Yeah. But anyways, like, that guy just had a good thing and just like sank it. And it's just a problem we've had in Austin in particular. This is, I think, why a lot of people stay away from MMA. And just the town again itself, it's hard. It's a hard sell. We got ACO, we got South by Southwest. There's all kinds of Formula One, F1 races. I mean, there's so much shit to do here. College football. I mean, you asking a kid for $65 to go pay your own admission ticket, or 40 or whatever, or he's going to have money to go to his concert. He's going to go to the concert. You know what I mean?
Well, and if you look at the sport and guys who do historically well at the sport, again, we're going to shout out to all the favorites here, but you look at, and now I guess, like I said earlier, the Fight Pass game has, if you can build a brand and you can build it and you can sustain it, and you have good fighters and you worry about your production and you love the sport, CFFC, Robert Haydack, Ed Soares had Resurrection. Then he, when Mick stepped off and they merged into LFA, here locally in PA, Art of War Cage Fight. There's a few promotions on the regional level that are starting to really pop. You got, again, like I said, CFFC, LFA, the guys that have the Fight Pass deal that are getting a lot of the call ups here. They genuinely love the sport, and when you genuinely love the sport, it makes all the difference. And that's why, to round out our whole thing here, like, that's what makes you, I think, a better judge. That's what made Bill a better referee, is because of the passion that you have for the sport and the growth for the sport. And if you lay that as your core principle trying to do anything, that's when you'll be more successful. When you guys are in here 2-3 shows, boom, 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 in and out of town chasing the fucking bag, that's not good for the sport.
I think
we might have lost him.
No, that's all right.
If he dips out, he'll come back in.
No, what you're saying is 100% right, man. And a lot of people question me sometimes, and they're like, they'll say, why'd you step away from reffing? And dude, I get invites to come back all the time. I've heard it from more than one person. I'm pretty sure I could go back to it if I felt like it. The problem is life happens, work takes over, you accomplish your goals. Once you accomplish your goals, it's hard I did everything with the sport that I wanted to do, man. On the weekends now, I get to spend time with my daughters. I just get to go out working with some coworkers. We watch the fights together. I gamble on the fights. I say anything I want about the fights. I don't want to say I lost the love for the sport, because as a fan, I'm still watching the sport. I still pay attention. I still keep up, but the assignments started to become work, if that makes sense. I would, oh my gosh, I would leave my house at 12:15 between 12:15 and 2 o'clock to go to Jersey or Philadelphia. I'm there. The show would close down. I'm not getting home till 1:30, 2 o'clock. And that's a whole Saturday I could have spent with my daughters. And like I said, it changes once you accomplished everything that you set out to do. Once you accomplished your goals in something, it's kind of really hard to keep going if you don't have a new goal. It's like, all right, I did everything that I wanted to do, or I thought that I wanted to do. And then you got to have that love for the sport. And I think I got out at the right time. I got out. These guys are putting their heart and soul. Every guy's trying to make the UFC, especially at the higher levels. They deserve somebody in there as passionate about the sport as they are. You know what I mean? And I kind of faded away from that. And you're right. If the love for the sport, with Haydak, with Nick, with Brent, with anybody who does it, if you don't love the sport, it becomes work. And you don't really enjoy it as much. So I like being a fan. I like being a loudmouth, beer drinking, fight criticizing fan. I love giving a guy some shit. He's like, who maybe didn't put his best foot forward. These guys would beat the shit out of me. As most fans that talk shit on the internet about any pro fighter in the UFC, oh, that guy sucks. That guy would beat the fucking dog shit out of you. Like, hardcore with the quickness, so it's I like being fan better these days. Like I said, it's only because I accomplished everything that I wanted to do, but I really do enjoy being a fan. I'll get the heck out of the way and get guys like Nick and former fighters, some other guys looking for a shot coming up the ranks to do some events. So
and I could say from the experience, again, not as toe dip compared to what you did, but I kind of feel like the pod has given me that kind of like fight night backstage just before a show goes on. You're getting ready to corner somebody. You're there because you're helping manage. You're there because you're promoting. Or in my case, like when I was there, Strike Off, there's something, and it's the energy. And like I said, Strike Off, we did them shows we did, especially at the Earn Center and stuff down there in Fairfax, Annapolis, with Strike Off. Shout out Sensei Nima, who's actually got a fighter. He's in Abu Dhabi right now. He's got a fighter fighting on the UFC card, or the UFC Abu Dhabi card. So, but just being in the arena, an hour or two before a show, seeing fighters you haven't seen for a couple months, there's an energy about it. And I know doing this with you, I just want to say, bro, like, this is probably, aside from the time I get to spend with my kids and watching my new baby grow up and just doing stuff with my wife, like, this is probably one of my favorite things now to do every week, see what we can make out of it. And just at the end of the day, if it ends up being us, me, you, and Joe Schmo a year from now, we got 100 episodes in or whatever, and we're still with the same tracking, with the still, I don't care, bro. This is fun to me. Talking to people like Nick, who again, from a fan's perspective, I watch Nick fight on TV.
This is as real as it can get. Okay. MMA is the one sport you and I could not show up at the Lincoln Financial for the Eagles and be part of the sport. We can't be part of the NBA. We can't be part of Major League Baseball. If you want to even go join a gym that your favorite fighter goes to and he trains at, Marquez MMA has Joe Pyfer down there. They have Sean Brady. They have all these top-notch guys. You can literally go be a teammate. You got to put your time in. They're not just going to let you spar with them right away, but you could be a part of this sport. And I think that's what people really, really love. Whether you're supporting your favorite fighter, a friend fighting, or you can be a part of this sport. Whereas the NBA, I like Joel Embiid. I'm never going to meet the guy, or I'm never going to be able to like hang out with him or see him in person or hold mitts for him while he throws, or even maybe possibly get around a spring or around a one-on-one, whatever it is in basketball with Joel Embiid. MMA is this one sport where everybody can be involved, man. You're that close. You can be intimate with the sport. You can be connected. And I think that's what makes this sport really, really great. And I enjoy being a fan and bullshitting with you too, man. I really do.
And at the end of the day, man, you got these are all just dudes. Everybody in the sport they're working. Joe Pyfer has a job. Nick Gonzalez has a job. And from the from the little bit of the fanboy that I get to do with this, like, again, I remember just sitting down, come home, watch Inside MMA. You got Boss Rutan on there. It was the only, informative MMA show content and stuff you really had, other than the little bit of stuff on the internet. And to see these highlights and see these guys fight, or a friend of yours fought in a no-show in Virginia and throws a drop kick and it's on national TV the next week. Like, it's exciting. The fanboy in me comes out a little bit.
I'll tell you
there's something to be said about it.
I'll tell you what, man. I was in a bar downtown Lancaster here one time, and I was watching fights after a shit waiting tables at Texas Roadhouse, and I'm sitting there. Bar was called Marion Court, and I'm watching Rashad Evans fight Sean Salmon. Okay, and I'm like looking all around and all this fun stuff, and I see the sport, and I saw, if you guys don't remember that's where Rashad Evans highlight reeled this guy, turned him into a lawn chair. Guy folded up with a head kick. I mean, knocked him out. The guy was knocked out before he even hit the ground. And I was like, you know what? I have a wrestling background. I think I'm a strong guy. I was like, I think I could try an amateur fight. Next thing you know, I'm in a fucking cage with Bruce Buffer saying, your referee will be Bill Bookwalter. And Joe Rogan's in there standing next to me. I'm like, how the fuck did that happen? That went out like that. That certainly escalated quickly. I'm like, I didn't even know how the fuck I got there. That's some crazy shit. That's $1 billion in one shot. That doesn't just happen. But I mean, it's out there. That's why I was telling Nick earlier to stick with the judging assignments, man. You don't know what's going to come up. You really don't. You feel like, oh man, they would never pick me for that. Do your time. They might. Hey, there's Nick.
Technical difficulties. Austin, Texas, back online.
No, man. So I've been moving. I'm in the process of moving, and I had the phone 5%. I was like, oh shit, and then it went like that. Like, dude, I don't know if you saw me. I was running and started.
I seen you running outside. I'm like, oh, his phone must have died. And then I didn't get you back. So I was like, I'll just
I couldn't find a cord. Like, I haven't I legit. After this, I was gonna say my farewells and whatever, let you guys know. Then I was gonna go to the store and start unpacking and get everything, because like today, when I moved in, there was like the water. I had to wait for the plumber, and it was just kind of a thing. And I had to go pick up some, So I haven't even really unpacked. I mean, my dog and I have been eating fucking fast food, But no, I appreciate you letting me back on, man. But yeah, I was trying to run out and grab a charger. And I couldn't remember where I had one. I was like, fuck, it's in the truck. I'm like,
well, no worries, bro. We'll let you dip back out. Thanks for joining us. You're always welcome here. We're always reachable on social media. I've been following your journey. We've been fucking talking to each other for a minute. So anytime, man, you want to come on here and just talk shit, feel free to, bro. We want this to just be the hang when it comes to combat sports, bro.
No doubt. And I think you had mentioned something right before you cut out, and it's just talking about like getting more, because like if you're looking at guys like myself and Chris Lieben, and we're old in the sport, but we're still young, right? Even yourself, Bill, we got enough experience now that we can help these newer generations, these newer guys have fair judges, they're better judging, better refereeing. Again, like, cause back in the dark days, it was so new to everybody, everybody's just like, what the fuck's going on? But like, Now we know what we're looking at. Now we know the sport. Now we know.
There you go, Bill.
That's
the Bill Bookwalter School for referees who want to learn and read good. There you go. There's another revenue stream for you, buddy.
The school is going to need to be at least 3 times the size of the model.
Yeah,
I get the Zoolander reference, man. I like it. I love that movie.
Yeah.
But hey, Nick, I just want to say thanks for taking time with us, man. I appreciate your insight, appreciate your input, man.
Absolutely, man. Thank you, fellas, for having me. I'd
Anything
love
you
to
want to
come on another
promote?
time.
Anything you want to promote? You want to hit your socials out there? Nick the Ghost, everybody. If you're in the
Nick the
Austin,
Ghost
Texas
MMA.
area,
Yeah.
and you need electricity, you need an electrician, you need somebody to judge an MMA card, you need somebody to hold pads.
Yeah.
Austin, Texas, my bucket list place, man. That's where it is. That's where Nick Gonzalez is, guys.
Appreciate it. You know, real funny. We'll throw that out real quick. Just like I'm not name dropping, but I had a text from a buddy of mine. The guy who owns it on it, Jim, Aubrey Marcus. I've known him for a long time. He'll randomly message me like once every year. He wants to just hit pads, and he just like wants to feel like a fucking whatever. So he'll call me for pad work. He hits me up out of nowhere, man. He's like, "Hey, can you be there Sunday or Saturday at 12?" I got a job. What's up? He said, "Oh, pads for me and Jake Paul." I'm like, "What the fuck?" I was like, "You're hanging out with Jake Paul now?" And he never responded, but I was like, this guy is social media influencer dude is really pushing everywhere. If I was just like in my mind, I'm thinking what kind of crazy stuff they're going to be getting together to do. You know, you got a lot of money, a lot of followers, a lot of people. And then
Aubrey
just
Marcus, there's a possibility of some ayahuasca. There's a possibility of some craziness going on. We've all heard the stories. You know what I'm saying?
Women on poles and swings. I was like, what the fuck? Yeah. But also too, you know, it's just again one of these things. It's like I don't know, man. Maybe he's gonna. Cause they just announced a fight. They didn't give a date. I mean, they gave a date. They didn't give a venue. It would not surprise me if he fights in Texas again. Paul.
Yeah, I heard. Yeah. I heard Jorge this week. I've heard Jorge this week. I've heard Jorge, and there was another one that just dropped today of the internet name dropping shit that's going on. But then again, it's the internet. According to the internet, Usman's out with a knee injury, so anything's possible.
Right.
Even though I know that's not the case, but he's still in. Don't panic.
I think because they did really good at the American Airlines Center, and I don't know what the capacity is there, but that motherfucker was slammed out. It was sold out, but they did really good there. And I think Texas Commission is one of the easier ones to work with, but it's still regulated with the really good rules. That makes sense. Like it's not Nevada, you know, but we're I think we're kind of right behind them, you know, as far as commissions. But so I think again they're welcoming these shows, you know, like I said, during the pandemic, we were still open. You know, the Paul Diaz fight, they're like, yeah, come on, what do you bringing, you know? And the state, they're not dumb, man. This puts money in everybody's pockets, you know?
Well, if you're plugged like that, then maybe Fight Show needs a man on the ground for Texas Combat Sports. And Nick needs to send me some content we can chop up. And he'll be our man on the, so he'll be judge, electrician, podcaster, fucking on the ground correspondent. You'll be like the guy at the football games giving the in-game report.
Yeah,
Let
man.
me know, man. We'll do it. We'll take care of it.
Stay in touch, man. Like, see, keep your eyes open for what venue. I said, I wouldn't be surprised if they come back to Texas for the Diaz fight, for the Paul Diaz fight again.
I'll tell you what, Paul Masvidal, I'd watch that. I would.
Paul Masvidal all day.
Yeah, man, absolutely. But yeah, I'll let you fellas get again. Thanks for having me on, and we'll get back in touch. I'd love to be back on.
Always, bro. You know how to get a hold of me. Hit me up, Nick. Love you, bro. Take it easy. Bro. You got homies in PA, bro. Love you.
All right. Thanks, buddy.
See you, bud. Bye. Nick Gonzalez, everybody. Texas MMA OG.
It's always good having guys like that around, man. Always good having guys like that around.
And that's, you know what? That is me being a fan for 10 years plus, going back down to not just putting myself in a bubble of, I'm in PA, we're just going to do PA shows. Like I said, we got great athletes, PA, Jersey, our region itself, you know, DC, Maryland, Virginia, the promotions, the fight we got. But I've always been fascinated with MMA and other parts, especially places like Texas where it almost operates in a bubble. Like you fuck with Texas MMA if you're a Texas person, but you don't, or California who's been doing it longer than anybody, you know what I'm saying? So, but getting out of that, can I just say I love it at this time right now, like the current events for MMA. You have, I call it the up and down phase. So you got Islam calling for the winner of Leon Colby, which puts him up a weight class. You got Khamzat and Usman clearly up a weight class, with the winner getting Strickland. You know, Volk's fighting up a class. You said the question in your referent, or not the referent, but you said the question the other week in a segment about, or so the statement I should say, about fighters locking down 2 weight divisions. And Volk, for the haters out there, soundly put a soundbite out today that says, for the last X amount of times they've called me up to be the backup, I've made weight in this weight and this weight. So I think Volk, very much we understand what we were talking about when we said that double champs kind of lock down divisions, but we also Volk might be the exception to that rule. So we'll hopefully he's victorious.
I'll tell you
We
what,
will see.
it's an exciting time to be a mixed martial arts fan, man. The UFC has it doesn't matter who wins these fights this weekend, they have a plan, and they can throw some exciting shit no matter who wins. You know what I mean?
The next 6 months as an MMA fan is just going to be amazing.
It's going to be absolutely
say.
wild. I'll tell you what.
I didn't get to talk about it while Nick was still on, but something I did want to bring up this week. I didn't want to save it for next week because it's a little bit of older news already, but California establishes first retirement fund for MMA fighters. This is from ESPN.com, by the way. The California State Athletic Commission executive Andy Foster, who, if you've watched a UFC broadcast from California, you've heard that name before. This just passed the legislator Uriah Faber, Josh Emmett, Kat Zingano, and Ronda Rousey supported it immensely publicly. Basically, any MMA fighter, who has fought at least 39 rounds in a CSAC sanctioned fight held in the state will be eligible, for funds starting when they are at least 50 years old. The money from the fund will be generated in several ways, including ticket sales for MMA events in California. The state is also working on selling vanity license plates related to MMA, with all proceeds going towards the fund. They're the first state to do this. They've had a pension fund for boxers since '82. MMA was legalized in 2006 in California, and it's never been done before. So I think for the growth of a sport, this is something positive, especially with as deep-rooted as California is in MMA as a state.
I will. I'll tell you what. I will read up on that. I got a lot of free time at work this week coming up, so I will read a lot about that. I don't want to speak on something before I've read on all the details, but it sounds good. And I'd like to know.
We'll touch base again on it next week. I think it's good.
I'd like to know where the money's coming from, like how they're going to sustain it long term.
Well, it says so. They're going to take a portion of ticket sales. Excuse me. They're going to take a portion of ticket sales. They're working on. The money will be generated in several ways, including ticket sales for MMA events in California. State is also working on vanity license plates related to MMA, and that's just 2 of them that they named. So I'm sure they have 5 or 6 different things. And if you look at, I don't know, like the lottery in our state, how much does it generate for older Pennsylvanians? That's what our lottery goes for. And I know state by state that varies, but if the lottery can do that, and they can do that with that, I think as many MMA events that go on in California, I think it's awesome that the commission has taken a chunk that, because I don't know how California commission works. I know our commission here in Pennsylvania is self-funded. So whatever revenue they generate, it's theirs to keep. So it's kind of, again, California and Nevada have always been, as far as athletic committees, always been a little bit ahead of the game because they're groundbreaking.
Just from what you said, it doesn't sound like they're hitting the promoter up for any extra cost. It sounds like they're doing this out of their own pocket. So that's interesting.
Probably, well, it might come out of the promoter's ticket sales because, as you know, and I don't know how California works, but portions of your ticket sales go to the commission. So it's one of them things. Maybe it's coming out of the promoter's pocket. Maybe no more is coming out of the promoter's pocket. But the California State Athletic Commission is earmarking certain percentage per show, which I think is awesome. With that being said, let us go here to, and for everybody, I don't think we got everybody watching, don't forget, the pay-per-view card this Saturday starts at 2 p.m.
How good is that pay-per-view card? Holy shit. How many good fights are on that fucking card, man?
Yeah, let me go back up here. I'm having a little technical difficulties. Pulling it up here. Pull the fight card up, and I'll go ahead and throw this up here for us to look at.
All right, we'll just we'll do a little preview here.
And we're not showing anything. I don't know why. Give me 1 second. Technical difficulties. We've been plagued this afternoon. Bring her back up here. There we go. Maybe we'll be looking at the UFC fight card. Maybe we won't. We're already at 1:30, and we got nothing but time, bud. So
it's true story.
Yeah, no, it's being being a little hinky here. Let me
There you go.
oh, there we go. Hold on. Pull her back up here. Here we go. There we go. There's Volk.
Let's do the main card here.
Yeah, of course. One thing. So this dude right here is actually that's Sensei Nima's guy from Strike Off. So
Okay, I was
best
looking at the records. He's 0-1 in the UFC against
yeah.
Nurmagomedov, who's 6-2 in the UFC. So I don't know if this is the last minute replacement. I don't really understand this matchmaking.
Yeah, I don't know either. I know this guy right here actually trains. I can't think of his name off the top of my head. He doesn't train. He's not popular country. I believe people see the name. It's a popular name that area of the world. He trains out of that Fight Club Akhmet, which is the Chechen dictator with the beard.
Yeah.
Who has some questionable. This guy right here has some questionable leadership practices as far as human genocide and what goes on. But yeah. That's that fight. Starting off the main card here. Well, real quick, Tim Elliott on the prelims. Interesting story with that. He's sponsoring a fighter who's fighting the guy that his wife cheated on him with, who used to be his training partner. Soto.
That's how I know.
No, Kroom. Kroom. That's what it was. Kroom. So, anyways, back to a little bit of worthless information for people. We got this fight.
Yep. Mufin Gaffer. I'll tell you what. Nurmagomedov is only minus like 200 something on DraftKings.
185. So, well, okay, 185. Yeah.
Okay, I'll tell you what. He's 6-2 in the UFC. Going up against the guy who's 0-1 in the UFC, and you're only minus 185. That means they're giving the other guy some respect. I don't know a lot about the other guy, Muin Gafarov. I don't know a lot about him.
18 and 5. Again, we know the cut of the guys that come out of Strike Off, that train with the Strike Off, or not Strike Off, sorry, Kaizen MMA, Sensei Nima, Sensei Najim down there. We know the caliber of guys that they train. Turk trained out of there with them.
I'll tell you what, they're giving him some respect. 6-2 in the UFC versus 0-1 in the UFC. You're probably looking at like normally like minus 700, minus 800, but all of a sudden, like this Gufarov, is that his name? Gafarov. He's fighting
Gufarov, yeah.
Yeah, and he's barely 2-1. So somebody knows something about this guy, or they think he has a chance because he's not out of the fight. All right, Alaskarov versus Warley Alves. Alaskarov was supposed to fight Paulo Costa, or no. I apologize. He was supposed to fight that Imavov guy, Nordin Imavov, I believe his name is. But when they had to move this card around a little bit, Warley Alves got tossed in. So I mean, Ikram, however you say the name, I would assume that he's
15 and 6. Yeah,
not bad, but a fill-in. You know what I mean? He's a late second throw-in. But Alaskarov is also like minus 600, so everybody thinks he's going to win. So
we lost to James Krause. I wonder if there was any bets put on that fight. But anyways,
yeah, that was the one to get rich off of. Oh man, what a fun fight that is, man.
Ankalaev is going to be great.
He should be the champion right now. The whole thing with Jan Blachowicz, it came down. It was a split draw, I believe. It was a draw or a split draw, one of the two. Ankalaev, that was the one where Jan Blachowicz said that he didn't feel that he deserved a split decision. The other guy should have the championship. So this is Ankalaev. This is his first fight back. Johnny Walker has the right style to beat him. I'm not saying he's going to do it, but Ankalaev can make a fight pretty slow, pretty methodical. Johnny Walker, we all know how he's going to come out swinging for everything. So
if you look at this guy's resume, I mean, just looking at his resume, not knowing a thing about him, impressive. With who, Kutalaba, Krylov.
Yeah, I believe
Santiago
he only has
Santos.
He only has one loss, correct? He only has one loss, and that was like a 1 second left thing with Paul Craig, where he tapped in a triangle. He tapped in a triangle with Paul Craig with 1 second left in the fight and lost. Other than that, he would have won on decision. I don't I think that was he lost
459 sub right there. Yep, that was back in 2018.
Yeah, so this guy, you are technically looking at what I think is the world. He's the best 205 fighter in the world. And I'll tell you what, Johnny Walker is entertaining. It's a lot of fun. He's going to get in there dancing, be throwing all kinds of wild shit. So I don't know. I'd still have to go ankle live in that one. I think he can take Walker down whenever he wants and grind out.
Who are we liking for Kamaru Usman versus the Wolf, Chimaev?
Khamzat Chimaev is one of the best fighters maybe I'm buying the hype. The way he moves and the way he does things, and now they made him go up to 185 instead of 170. So he doesn't have the emotional and mental battle with a weight cut down to 170. He just gets to feel good and fight. And Usman's 37, 38 years old. Usman's in a lot of trouble, man. I don't.
No, for sure. I mean, you look at his resume.
What's Usman going to do? Outstrike him? Is he going to take him down and out grapple him? Is he going to submit him? Is he going to knock him out? Probably none of the above, man.
Funny thing too, this week he came out in a press conference, and I don't know if you saw the clip, but somebody made a comment about his weight cut, and he basically alluded to the fact that it was a plan for him to miss weight. That was something about a plan, and again, language barrier. His English has improved and it's gotten better, and he can answer questions, but he's still. But it was a lot of it wasn't my plan, but and of course nobody followed it up at the UFC press conference with, well, what was the plan? What are you talking about? So I'm anxious to see how that goes. Volk versus Islam.
Man, I have no idea. Alexander Volkanovski is as live an underdog as you're ever going to get, man. He learns stuff from when in the past, in performances, he hasn't quite performed as good as he thought he should have. He's done nothing but improve. You know what I mean? So now he learned. That guy, Volkanovski, is insanely smart. He knows the only way that Makhachev wins this fight is to get position on him, on the ground, and win on kind of a technical thing. Like we were talking about earlier with Nick. If you were to just base the fight on damage, the last time they fought, Volkanovski got a lot more damage on Makhachev than Makhachev got on Volkanovski. If that fight even attempts to hit the ground, I think Volkanovski was a little complacent the last time, and when Makhachev took his back, he kind of conceded that for a little while he regrouped and figured out what's going on. I think if Makhachev gets him down and is to attempt or start to gain any kind of advantageous position, I think you're going to see an insane sample out of Volk. I think he wants us on the feet for as much time of the fight as possible. I think he could probably get it done. I really do. Guy's a really smart
and
fighter.
Still says he wants Ilia Topuria in January.
He's a monster, man. Guy's a monster.
Yeah. Well, that gym is full of monsters.
Yeah.
So
it's good time to be an MMA fan and get to see some shit, man. It's good. I don't think this fight isn't going to be at all like what you saw last time. It's not going to be I don't think Volkanovski wants any part of the ground game. I think he wants to make this a 5-round stand-up fight where you watched the last fight like I did. He looked better on the feet than Makhachev did. Makhachev won that fight by taking him to the ground stuff. So I think Volkanovski's real smart. He's got the talent to do it. I think you might be looking at a double champ after this weekend. That's just my vibe.
And he says that he's not going to lock any divisions down, so I'm excited to see that. And I guess with that being said, we'll get out and find out what Bill Bookwalter wants to bitch about this week. But before we do that,
I love that. Find out what he wants to bitch about.
Find out what he wants to bitch about this week. But before we get into that, real quick, it's still October, guys. Sponsor of the Fight Show, Pool No Punches Apparel, has, for the entire month of October, any Cancer Sucks items sold, whether that be a tank, tee, or hoodie, $10 of that will be going to breast cancer awareness. And with a massive amount of tanks, tees, hoodies, beanies, flannels, you name it, they got it. Let's face it, guys, the weather's changing. It's going to be that time where if you come in the house with a fresh hoodie or a fresh flannel, the old ladies are going to steal it anyway. So while you're on there looking at their websites down there at the bottom, they're going to steal that shit. So you might as well just order 2. So if you see anything you want, just buy 2, guys. But anyways, Pool No Punches Apparel, proud sponsor, Fight Show. And with that being said, I'm going to bring to stage Mr. Bill Bookwalter after everything stops lagging here and we're running 2 seconds behind. But a ref rant with Bill Bookwalter, brought to you by Pool No Punches Apparel. Again, poolnopunchesapparel.com. $10 for every cancer shirt they sell. Tee, hoodie, goes to breast cancer awareness. So hit them up, poolnopunchesapparel.com. Anyways, here's Bill. Take it away, Bill.
All right, man.
Whenever you're ready.
All right, here's my ref rant for the week. All right. Over the past 30 years, however, since the inception of the UFC, we've all seen the UFC make some mistakes in the past, put on some really good cards, some really bad cards. Like I said, I'm just a fan like anybody right now. I surf the message boards like everybody. I see what everybody on social media is putting out, okay? This UFC fight card fell apart on us a couple weeks ago, okay? And it has been built back better to be a card that I think I'm more excited about than when they first announced it. I think they got to fights that a lot more of the fans wanted to see. But like I was saying, going back to the point, I'm in the group chats like everybody. I see what a lot of people are saying, and everybody here. I'm going to get the biggest. I'm going to get labeled the biggest Dana Dick Rider in the world here. Do you understand how good Dana White and his team are at running the UFC and bringing mixed martial arts to your living room? My God, it feels like 3 out of 4 weeks a month we get MMA, whether it's the Dana White Contender Series, whether it's a UFC Fight Night, they are by far, they're not a monopoly, but they are by far the best in the land. They rebuilt a fight card that was, oh my God, remember when, who was it? It was John Jones was supposed to fight somebody and they freaking got hurt and Chael Sonnen ended up stepping in. There were days like that where you were looking forward to your UFC pay-per-view and something happened, and my God, they were willing to shut down the whole freaking card. This card fell apart with some injuries, some illnesses, and guys they changed everything around. To the average fan, we all like to sit around and bitch online, and Dana White runs a multi-billion-dollar. Well, he doesn't run it. They sold it. He has his position, but he's responsible for the programming that comes to your living room, the fight cards that we look forward to, and all that. And to sit there and read everybody say online about that he should have been paying Francis Ngannou $8 million, or he should give his prelim fighters more than 12,000, blah 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 blah. They blast him for everything. Dana White does a really good job at this. I'm looking forward to this fight card more than I think just about any other fight card this year. So my ref rant and bitch for this week is give Dana White a break, man. The guy does a really good job at mixed martial arts. He's a really good promoter. He knows what the hell he's doing. We are a bunch of not necessarily casual, but we're a bunch of fans that sit on a couch, drink beer, watch the events, take them for granted, and say, "Oh, here's what he should have done." This guy, he knows what he's doing. So appreciate what we have right now, because hopefully one day when he's gone, somebody equally as capable takes his place, and we get the level of mixed martial arts that we're getting pretty much spoiled with here. We're getting to see some really, really good fights. They have a really good game plan in the future. Like I was telling you earlier, pretty much no matter who wins this weekend, they have a plan. And they have some cool, whether Volkanovski loses and he goes back down, well, now we get to watch Volkanovski versus Ilia Topuria. That's not a drop-off. That's like a really, really gigantic fight. If Volkanovski was to somehow win this weekend, I'm sure Dana White has a ton of shit to do with it. So, my ref rant for this week is learn to appreciate where we're in a really, really golden age of mixed martial arts right now. It's not near as shitty as it was when it was first starting out. I suffered through some painful main events, some terrible, terrible freaking cards, some terrible fighters, but that was just because the sport is new. We're living in a really, really good age to be an MMA fan. So between all our bitching and emotional rants and all that fun stuff like that, learn to appreciate what we're watching right now. This is a pretty good time, and Dana White does a pretty good job.
It's 2023, and you got stacked fight night cards that aren't even pay-per-views. Count your blessings. That's all I got to say as an MMA fan. Also, real quick, we talked about it a couple weeks ago. We said about Francis beating Dana to Africa. If you didn't see this week, I'm a news nerd with this stuff, but if you didn't see this week, the UFC just extended their partnership with Abu Dhabi Tourism. Okay. Abu Dhabi and the United Arab Emirates, that government is going to be doing shows in not only the United Arab Emirates and that area, but also the northern part of Africa. So sneakily, Dana beat Francis to Africa. So we'll close on that. But Thanks everybody that tuned in. We'll see you guys next week. Fight Show Live, and we're out.
All right. See you, man.